Hey friends, welcome back to the Proverbial Masterminds. I'm Erin. This is my friend, Dr. Sherry. We are just
Hello,
two
friends.
daughters of the King minding the Master's wisdom.
That's right.
And we've been doing this since November of 2020, and we're on chapter 20 of Proverbs.
What? We are 2/3 of the way through. essentially.
2/3, like for real.
That's amazing.
I can't even believe it.
So, but you know what that's reflective of? It's reflective of the intentionality and the diligence that's required to achieve anything,
True.
right? Like we've learned a lot together,
Yes.
but it's because we chose to do it, intention,
Yep.
day in, day out, diligence.
That's right.
And that's actually 2 descriptive words of wisdom.
There you go. Love that.
Intentionality and wisdom. Welcome back.
Love it. Okay, so we're in chapter 20, verses 1 through 7.
Mhm.
So do you want to read or do you want
Sure.
me to?
I'll read. All right, chapter 21 to 7, I'm reading in the New Living Translation. Wine produces mockers. Alcohol leads to brawls. Those led astray by brawls. Those led astray by drink cannot be wise. Verse 2, the king's fury is like a lion's roar. To rouse his anger is to risk your life. Dun, dun, dun. Avoiding a fight is a mark of honor. Only fools insist on quarreling. Those too lazy to plow in the right season will have no food at the harvest. Though good advice lies deep within the heart, a person with understanding will draw it out. Many will say they are loyal friends, but who can find one who's truly reliable? The godly walk with integrity. Blessed are their children who follow them. Yes. So it's interesting. I actually have been reading it this week in the New King James Version. So this is the first time seeing it in this. And there's definitely some different interpretive paths to be had based on the translation.
Yeah.
In particular, verse 5. So that says, though good advice. Do you have the New King James in front of you?
I do. It says, counsel in the heart of man is like deep water, but a man of understanding will draw it out.
Yeah. So if you look at some of the Greek or Hebrew root words of those, they tend to go to like the deeper things, like your purpose, your will, your all of that God has put that deep within you, and that the diligent one, the one who understands, will work tirelessly to pull that out, right?
Right.
But this translation is different. Though good advice lies deep within the heart. I mean, that's very different advice from.
That's correct.
Purpose.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have anything.
Yeah, I just was reading through my commentary on 20, and on that verse in particular, it says Proverbs often examines human purposiveness.
Yes.
So here in 20 verse 5, it is likened to deep waters, but by careful, this is interesting because this took me to like Thriving Thoughts, right? It says by careful psychological counseling, a wise man can draw it out where necessary, presumably by using non-directive techniques. So this went like really deep, like really fast. Yes. Many physical diseases are rooted in the depths of the personality and need to be cleansed through Christ's blood for individuals to be made whole.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah. So
I didn't mean to start in the middle, but that's
no, it's okay. I think the interesting thing, if this is your first time, we like to read from different translations, not because they necessarily aren't the context of what the Lord meant, but it just kind of enlightens us more as we're reading through it to really dig into the word. At the beginning of this, we know that drinking, it leads you to bras and brawls. But this is what it says in my commentary. Drunkenness was probably the greatest social problem in antiquity because of a comparative lack of non-alcoholic beverages, right? Like sodas and other things.
Right.
Wine here is distinguished from strong drink, the latter probably being a fermented liquid. And this says the drunkard is not in control of himself and is made to look pathetic and foolish in his inebriation.
Mhm.
So this sad situation has been repeated countless times in human history and will continue. So it's just, again, giving us a flavor for what was happening at the time that Solomon is writing this.
Right.
But fascinatingly enough, for the people who think that the Bible is just historical text, friends, this still happens today.
Right. It does. And yeah, it's you don't have to look far to find it.
No. So it's not, not letting yourself be pulled astray.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think about this wrath of the king?
Well, if we look back, what verse was that in chapter 19?
I'm looking at it now. Oh, 12, 19.
12, yeah. The king's anger. So this is the second time Solomon's repeated this. He may have repeated it before and we just don't remember because we've read a lot of verses.
Sure, right.
But yeah, in chapter 19, verse 12, it says the king's anger is like a lion's roar. And in chapter 20, verse 2, the king's fury is like a lion's roar. So, kings get mad, right? The masters get mad. But the difference is in verse 2, to rouse his anger is to risk your life. But if we look back, his favor is like dew on the grass. So don't make the king angry.
Right. And in the
earn his favor.
Yeah. In the commentary, it says that this promotes an image of a mighty king who controls the destinies of his subjects. Well, isn't that true? I mean, God controls our destinies, whether we think we're in charge or not.
Right.
And we don't want to, interestingly, the difference here, I think between, I know between that and like a human king is, yes, we can rouse God's anger and yes, he will discipline us. But in the end, like his love is so steadfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, the king, you can use that loosely to mean anybody who's in authority.
True.
Over you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the audiences, that the fool, the simple-minded, the ones who don't want any authority over them.
Yes.
Right. That's the whole book of Proverbs, is distinguishing between the two. The wise recognizes authority over them. The simple or the foolish do not.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Which, speaking of simple and foolish, any fool can start a quarrel, as it says in verse 3.
Yeah, it does.
Can you reread what that from your version? Because that brought something up for me.
Avoiding a fight is a mark of honor. Only fools insist on quarreling.
Insist. So today on social media, I was looking at
you can look and wait. Yes, just look at social media to find people who insist on quarreling.
So Sean Bowles, who is a pastor, and he has a couple of podcasts. I had the honor of being on his Exploring the Prophetic podcast last year. He posted a picture today, and it is a person with a keyboard.
Okay.
But it's like a gun.
Uh-huh.
And he said something.
Oh, that's great.
Effect of like, here come some Christians, right? Like, that's not everybody. Here comes some Christians ready to slip into the comments with their quote, love and grace feedback, right? And it's true. It is true. I feel like last week, maybe, I don't remember if it was last week or maybe I read it somewhere else. No, I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and they said, like, if you look, whatever you look for, you will find.
That's what I always say.
And so this is true. And then Toby Mac, who's a fantastic Christian artist, posted today, like, something that said, basically, you do know that you don't have to comment on everything you don't agree with,
Mhm.
right? And so I feel like that in the times way before there was social media, again, the wise versus the foolish,
Yeah.
right? Like that the
It's
foolish is always looking for the quarrel.
well, in death and life, it's the recognition of God's word that death and life are in the power of the tongue,
Yes.
right? And so the wise know when to bite it,
That's right.
and the foolish don't. They want to keep going. Yeah, I did a post one time and I said, I want you to tell me what you stand for without telling me what you stand against.
Mm.
Did I tell you about this?
Mm-mm.
Because it's one of my biggest pet peeves. It's like people can't stand for something unless they're against something to support why they're for something.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to know what you stand for, not what you don't stand for.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
can you tell me what you stand for without telling me what you don't?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
several people put in the comments, like joy, peace, love, blah, blah, blah.
Which kind of reminds me of well, it's actually coming up tomorrow. So my post tomorrow is if you stand for nothing, Burr, what will you fall for? Right. From Hamilton, Mr. Burr, sir. Right. Like, tell me what you stand for.
Yeah. And so then one person commented, leaders with some common sense. And I said, I just didn't reply, but I was like, nope, you misunderstood the assignment. Right. Because if you say people who care for you for a change in your life, that's telling me
Right.
right? It's telling me what you don't want, which is
Yeah.
people who don't care for you.
Right.
So just tell me you want love.
Right.
Tell me you want leadership. Tell me you want whatever.
Yeah. And I think it is tough for us to do that because we're so used to speaking out against what we don't want. Does that make sense? Anyway.
Well, and it's the insisting on quarreling.
Insisting. Yes.
Because all that does is it stirs the pot.
Right.
To tell somebody what you stand against only stirs the pot. And it certainly diminishes your argument. I mean, that's the other thing, just from a, power of persuasion perspective. And I did not intend all that alliteration. Power of persuasion perspective.
I'm all about some good alliteration.
Writers have a unhealthy relationship with alliteration. Anyway, that the mark of a person who wins arguments is somebody who is able to have very few of their own for why they believe what they believe. And so the mark of a poor arguer, of somebody who can't persuade, is somebody who provides all the reasons for why you're wrong as opposed to why they're right.
Yes. Yes.
So don't insist on quarreling because nobody's going to listen anyway.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Okay. I feel like 4 is pretty straightforward. Like if you don't plow, you got no food.
Well, it's like before when we said lazy people in verse 24 above in chapter 19, lazy people take food in their hand, but don't even lift it to their mouth. The other thing though, that strikes a chord for me, and I know that we've talked about this before on the show actually, and outside of this platform, but we'll have no food at harvest. It's really important for us to remember because speaking of social media, but the popular messaging out there is to work hard to get something, right? To get something. And then what? You're just supposed to sit there and with your big screen TV in your lap and love it. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like no, it's interesting that the message is to work really, really hard. So plow, plant, water, blah, 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 so that you can get the thing. But then nobody ever actually talks about when you get the thing, it's actually work. And then what do you do next? So believers in particular, I think, fall prey to this. They're like, oh, I'm ready for my harvest. I'm ready for the blessing. I'm ready for whatever. Well, the harvest is work, because I just planted my garden yesterday. And I'm going to do one of the reels where it's like, some people underestimate me, when it's the empty garden, but I go pow, and then it's the full garden. So we'll have to wait till the end of the season for that. But the point is that when all of the stuff, yes, it's work to plant it, to till the soil, to plant the things, to water the things, to maintain them, right? I have to do all of that. But also when it comes, what do I have to do
The
to enjoy
harvest
it?
is work.
The
Yeah.
harvest is work.
Yes.
So make no mistake that even though it says those too lazy to plow in the right season will have no food at the harvest, of course they're not, because they're not going to work in the harvest either.
That's right. No,
Right.
I mean, yeah, yeah, 100%. I love that Dr. Charles Stanley in My Life Principles Bible says, here we go back to the sloth. Slothfulness has consequences.
Yeah.
So it does. So
Yeah. Weeds grow where we're slothful.
yes. Yes. All right. We covered 5. So what do you have for 6?
Many will say they are loyal friends, but who can find one who is truly reliable? Just practically speaking, I'll say that's why my circle is small.
Oh, yeah.
And we should all strive to have a small circle, right, of people who we trust. I saw a meme the other day that said, well, it wasn't a meme. It was a short clip from a Canadian psychologist. What's his name? I can't think of it off the top of my head. But he was talking about share good news with people who will be genuinely happy for you. You see, a lot of times what we do when we're thinking about loyalty, we're thinking about sharing vulnerabilities. We're thinking about, but I think it's important to remember that the good things in your life are also vulnerabilities that people can manipulate and exploit.
Yes.
So your good news is not for everyone.
Yeah.
Just, I thought that was a really good piece of wisdom that aligned with this verse.
That is so good. All right. And then 7. So in the Passion Translation, verse 7 says, the lovers of God will walk in integrity, and their children are fortunate to have godly parents as their examples. Yeah.
Yes.
And we also still sin. Can I sit right?
Yeah.
We also still make mistakes. We also still are not Jesus.
That's right. We are not, but integrity is saying that, is acknowledging the truth of that.
Yes. Yes. Dr. Charles Stanley's comment on this is, those who faithfully demonstrate a deep, abiding love for the Lord and exhibit a sound moral character in obedience to him bless their children with a gift that lasts for generations. And here's the thing. So my daughters are not believers. I think that my older daughter is closer to, giving her life to Jesus, certainly, than my younger daughter. But they see there are godly ways of life that I think that they witness being exhibited by us, by, influential people in their lives, that they can then emulate, that they learn from. And so if you are a parent or, an aunt or uncle or what have you watching this, and you're like, hey, I'm living this out, but these very important children in my life are not following along, know that they see it.
Yeah,
they do.
Well, yes. And you know what? Take the pressure off, because it's not up to you to draw them to Jesus. That's the work of the Holy Spirit.
Right. That's right.
You can't do it even no matter how hard you try.
No.
I remember my brother saying that when he had his son, who is now 20, he'll be 21 in July. Anyway, I remember when he had him, and he said, and he just had this kind of realization that came over his face, and he said, I can give him everything in the world, but I can't give him eternal life. That's heavy for a parent.
It is true.
But it's true.
Yeah.
And that is the wisdom that allows us to submit to the authority of God, because when we realize that, we can put that care at Jesus's feet. We can put that care and say, okay, can't do this, but you can.
But you can. Yes. Yeah. Oh, that is so powerful, Sherry. I'm so glad you shared that.
Yeah.
Okay, friends. So that's what we got for you. this week.
Uh,
Join us next week. We are continuing in chapter 20 with verses 8 through 14.
Correctamundo.
And I'm still in shock that we're 2/3. Like, what?
It's amazing.
So
Yeah, so
crazy.
read along with us, friends. Comment below this. For those of you watching today, if you are commenting live, we have pre-recorded today's session, but we'll be back with you hopefully live
Yes.
next Friday. Sometimes logistical things interfere, but we will always be here for you, pre-recorded or otherwise.
That's right. And we can't wait to hear from you. So drop your comments.
Yes.
And join us then. Thanks,
Yes.
everybody. See
Bye.
ya.